What is Unitarian Christianity? If you look on the internet, you find a lot of videos on this subject, and what they tend to be about is arguing about the Trinity, the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. And the thing is, you can spend the rest of your life arguing about the Trinity if you really wanted to, but frankly you'd be wasting your life. You could argue about the Trinity until the cows come home, and people do. And that's not the point of Unitarian Christianity. The point of Unitarian Christianity is not to spend hours arguing against the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. The point of Unitarian Christianity is to get straight to the teaching of Jesus of Nazareth. The point of Unitarian Christianity is to look at Jesus and to see in Jesus a human being who was a religious genius, who provided in his teaching something profound that is a spiritual path that is proven, I think, as a spiritual path that can transform the self, the soul, and can transform the world. And the point is to look at the best historical understanding we can have of who Jesus actually was and what he actually said and what he was actually about, and make that the foundation for Christian faith. Jesus' teaching is at the heart of Unitarian Christianity. But what is that teaching? It's difficult to summarize very briefly, but at its foundation, what Jesus was about was teaching about the love of God, that God is passionately and overwhelmingly loving, that God is unconditionally and universally and forgivingly loving to all, to everything. And that we respond to that by loving God and loving our neighbour, and that we can't love God without loving the human beings around us, without loving our neighbours. The two are inextricably linked together. You can't love God without loving neighbours. Jesus said that when the love of God becomes manifest, when the love of God exists in concrete forms in human society, what we have is the kingdom of God. Now, I prefer to drop the G in the kingdom of God and talk about the kingdom of God, because I think Jesus used a word like kingdom with a huge amount of irony, because we can think of kingdom and we can think of kings and palaces and wealth and power and authority, and actually the kingdom of God is the exact opposite of all of those things. And so I think a lot of Christians miss the irony in that phrase, and so to kind of help with that, I like to say the kingdom of God. And Jesus told a lot of stories, what we call parables, about the kingdom of God. And these stories were designed to open up the mind, to confuse us sometimes, to have something to meditate on, to think about, to discuss with others, to try and work out what are these stories saying, and what would it mean to live into these stories? What would it mean to live into what they are saying to us? Jesus did not provide a set of rules like 1, 2, 3, this is what you have to do. He said the kingdom of God is like this, and then he told a story. And he leaves it to us not to follow a set of rules, but to try and to live in concrete ways to what those stories are saying. And when we do that, we are beginning on a path that is a lifestyle, that is a way of being in the world. A way of being that is built on things like simplicity and humility and compassion and forgiveness and justice and working for the equality of all people. And it's that lifestyle, that way of being in the world, that is at the centre of Unitarian Christianity. And Unitarian Christians would say that the other stuff, the what Jesus was, that sort of speculation about that, and what it means that Jesus, what the meaning of Jesus' death on the cross, or whether Jesus was risen from the dead, or the doctrine of the Trinity, or all this sort of stuff, Unitarian Christians say this is not at the heart of Christianity. This is optional at best, if you like. But what is at the centre of Christianity for the Unitarian Christian is that way of God rooted, that way of life rooted in the love of God. And that's what Christianity is, a way of life rooted in the love of God.